there, my name is Hydo and welcome to the Pantheon, where it's Innistrad, isn't it? But why are we delving into the depths? You know, why a Kraken's been summoned? Who really knows? Well, I think someone that might know is Runo Stromkirk. Dimir, 3 mana, 1/4 flying vampire cleric. When it enters the battlefield, put up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. So a nice little stacking of the deck there. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card if a creature card with mana value 6 or greater is revealed this way. Transform Runo Stromkirk into a 3/5 Krothuss, Lord of the Deep. Legendary creature Kraken Horror. So he's awoken some horrible monstrosity from the deep. 3/5 flyer. Quite how he's flying, I'm not sure. Surely he'd be just sort of floating on the water. Then, whenever it attacks, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of another target attacking creature. If that creature is a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent, create 2 of those tokens. So it really incentivizes you to build around that, but we're going to be getting copies of anything that we attack with. So this card, it's really cool, isn't it? Who doesn't love having monstrous things coming out of the ocean? Well, the Japanese, I don't think, if the Godzilla movies are anything to go by, but, well, I'm not too bothered. Let's destroy humanity, shall we? And there's quite a few ways that we can do that, so come and join me and I'll show you how. But first, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be making videos like this for every single legendary creature, and this is just one on the whirlwind tour that we're going to be going down. So come along for the ride. Without further ado, let's have a look at my top 5 for Runo. And in at number 5, well, what do we have? What's this channel called? Cycling MTG? Yes, let's cycle some creatures. And these are fantastic for the deck for a number of reasons. Cycling, you pay a mana, discard a card to draw a card. So we're going to be putting a card into our graveyard. Then when we play our commander, we can put that cycling card back on top. We draw it or reveal it. All of these are going to be massive. And Striped Riverwinder is a 7 mana serpent. So it's going to get double the tokens if we flip our commander. Hexproof 5/5. And it just works so well because we've turned it to the top of the library, draw it again, cycle it away. And we just filter through our deck. It just makes your deck so much more consistent, and it's a servant, so we get 2 copies when we attack with our flipped commander. Really awesome. Cycling, obviously the best thing that's ever happened to Magic. Then there's River Serpent, a 6 mana 5/5 serpent, so it's going to trigger, get double the tokens again. Can't attack unless there are 5 or more cards in your graveyard. Cycling for a single blue, so for 1 blue we're just getting through the deck, getting to the lands, getting to other creatures that we want to cast, and we're not stuck with a massive creature rotting in our hand. And, the downside of, having to have 5 things in our graveyard, not that bad. We want to fill up the graveyard so we've got things to return, stuff like that. Then there's Waker of the Waves. I was convinced this was a Leviathan, but it's a whale. Why does this, not work with our commander? But it's an amazing card nonetheless. And it doesn't have cycling, but it's actually got better cycling. Don't tell cycling that I told it, though. 7 mana 7/7 creatures your opponent's control get -1 mana so. So if we make a copy of that, then the creatures are getting -2 mana so. Really nice if you're on the offense. Pay 2, discard it from your hand. Look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put 1 of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. So you're filling your graveyard with something else, getting to choose between the top 2 cards and just putting a big threat that we can put back on top of the library with our commander and reveal to flip him over. This is just such a good card. Then the Sign of Darkness, 8 mana 6/6 avatar. So yes, we don't get 2 copies of it because it's not, a serpent or whatever the hell the 4 things were. But it's a fantastic card. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may put a target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and cycling for 3 mana. This card just does so much work, and if we can cheat it into play and then make copies of it using our commander, well, we're going to be stealing double the amount of things from our opponents. This card has just so much play. And that brings me on to number 4, and I'd want to focus on a couple of, Leviathans, serpents, things like that you might want to put into the deck. And one of them is Junk Winder. a brand new card from Modern Horizons 2. 7 mana for a 5/6 Serpent, so it fits into the sort of categories we're looking at. Affinity for tokens, and we're going to be making tokens with our commander. So this spell costs 1 less to cast for each token you control. If you're going down sort of a token ramp theme, maybe using treasure tokens, amazing with this card, you can get it out nice and early. And whenever a token enters the battlefield under your control, tap target non-land opponent controls. It doesn't tap during its controller's next untap step. So that might seem like a sort of minor inconvenience, something you might play in limited. But when you're swinging in and potentially making 2 copies of this, well, we're going to be tapping down a ridiculous amount of things because it'll see itself enter as a token. This original copy sees it, and we're just going to tap down everything in one big sort of maelstrom of tap action. And we're potentially casting it for 2 blue mana. Then back to the traditional Serpents, Leviathans sort of here. They cost a lot of mana. 6 mana for Serpents of Yawning Depths. It's an enchantment creature Serpent. It's a 6/6, and Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents you control can't be blocked except by Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. It's a, it's a little party for, all sort of sea-dwelling monstrosities. They don't want anyone else involved except for your opponent's face. You're just going to swing in there. They're not going to block. And, hey ho, we're going to kill everyone. Fantastic. And a bit of a technical issue there. I'm having to re-record this. So you now have Gyruda, Doom of Depth. 6 mana. This can't be your companion, sadly, even though, you'd like it to be. But it has to have CMC of even. And our commander costs 3 mana. But when it enters the battlefield, each player puts the top 4 cards of the library into their graveyard. Put a creature with even converted mana cost from among those cards onto the battlefield under your control, and it's a 6/6. So this is really, really good, and plays into the reanimation. Nice bit of mill, so we can always have something to put back on top with our commander. And it costs 6 CMC. Speaking of which, we have the Spawning Kraken. 6 mana for a Kraken. Whenever a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent you control deals combat damage to a player, create a 9/9 blue Kraken creature token, which is really nice big threat. And if we're going to be copying something, well, let's copy this with our commander. Have 3 of them, so everything's going to make 3 Krakens. It's just going to absolutely spiral out of control. Which takes me on to Scourge of Fleets. 7 mana for a 6/6 Cracker. Cracker? A delicious Moorish Cracker. When it enters the battlefield, return each creature your opponents control with toughness X or less to its owner's hand, where X is the number of islands you control. So this, you really want to be going a lot island-based, all of your swamps, if you can get them to be islands as well, that'd be pretty good. There's a way up there of doing it with Stormtide Leviathan. But this is great because each turn, when you attack with your commander, you can make a copy of this, or 2, and you're going to bounce everything back to your opponent's hands. They can't deploy their threats. We're just swinging in with massive amounts of damage. Then Stormtide Leviathan, a colossal threat back when I used to play sort of more, kitchen table magic. Not being able to attack is miserable. 8 mana, 8/8 with Island Walk. All lands are islands in addition to their other types. Ooh. And creatures without flying or Island Walk can't attack. Now, back in the day, I had no concept of how I could get around this. But then I realised murder is quite a good card. And also a good pastime in real life. Then there's Brinelin, the Moon Kraken. 8 mana for a 6/8 Kraken. When it enters the battlefield, or whenever you cast a spell with converted mana cost 6 or greater, you may return target non-land opponent to its owner's hand. So that's really good. Even if we're making copies, yes, they'll die to the legendary rule, but that's 2 bounces that we get. And most of our deck is going to be CMC 6 or greater. So that allows us to really churn out some value with Brinelin. And that brings me on to number 3. And at number 3, we've talked about some Krakens, Leviathans, things like that. Here is one of my favorites, with one of my favorite mechanics that isn't cycling, but it's very like cycling. It's Growzoth. 9 mana for a 9/9 Leviathan with Defender, so that's not great. Although you can pay 4 to make him lose Defender so you can attack with him. When it comes into play, you may search your library for any number of cards that have converted mana cost 9. Reveal them, put them into your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. Ooh, that's pretty goddamn good. Tutoring is always good, and this gets you tons of big threats. But Transmute is where it's at for me. For 3 mana, you discard this card. and you get to search through your library for any card that costs 9 CMC. So this is putting a card into your graveyard that you might want to put on top with your commander, so then you could do it all over again. And it just allows us to flip our commander, and it's a Leviathan that if we're attacking with it, we're going to be gaking 2 copies of it. Amazing card. Then here are a couple of 9 CMC cards that you could choose for. Expropriate, 9 mana. Sorcery, Council's Dilemma. Starting with you, each player votes for time or money. For each time vote, take an extra turn after this one. For each money vote, choose a permanent owned by the voter, gain control of it. Exile, expropriate. So taking multiple turns, especially with a combat-based commander like this, where you want to be attacking multiple times, well, it's going to be phenomenal. And just stealing something is, again, going to be ridiculous. Then there's Void Winnower, 9 mana Eldrazi, 11/9. Your opponents can't cast spells with even converted mana costs, and your opponents can't block with creatures with even converted mana costs. And remember, our commander can just make copies of anything that's attacking. So if this is attacking, we can have another one. Does it stack? No, it doesn't. It'd be cool if you had 2 of them. One was even, one was odd. You could choose, but that's just not the way the game works. So this is just a fantastic hate beast that you can tutor up. And because we're in a sort of reanimator style deck, Connive and Concoct is amazing. But 2 sorceries, but combined together they cost 9 mana. That's how you can search for it with Gozanoth. Gain control of target creature with power 2 or less. Takes a lot of commanders, Riku, things like that. We can steal a card like that. Or we can surveil 3, so look at the top 3 and then put any number into our graveyard. Then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, or reanimate Gozanoth maybe if you've put it into the graveyard by transmuting it, and you get to put something on top of your deck to flip our commander and get a ton of value that way. Then we've got Rise of the Dark Realms, 9 mana for a sorcery. Put all creature cards from all graveyards onto battlefield under your control. I'll take them all, I'll give them a good home. Who says I won't? I'm a good father. This is a great card. It's just wonderful. You're reanimating. If you're going to win, this is a very stylish way to do it. You get all the enter the battlefield effects. Ooh, I love it. Then, speaking of reanimation, there's Artisan of Kozilek, 9 mana for a 10/9 Eldrazi. When you cast a spell, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Annihilator 2. So when you attack, you're going to make them sacrifice 2 permanents, which is pretty good. One thing to remember is if you're making token copies of this with our commander, you will get neither of these, because the first is on cast and the second is on attack, so the token comes in already attacking. But then when you untap next turn and you attack, you're going to be annihilating for like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 10. Then Phyrexian Triniform is a 9 mana 9/9, and when it dies, create 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature tokens with Encore for 12 mana. So you can exile it from the graveyard. For each opponent, you create a token, and you can attack with them, and then they sacrifice it end turn, end of combat, I think it is. I can't remember. Next end step. Hey, there we go. But the really cool thing about this, with our commander, the token copies that we make with it, if they die, we're going to get those tokens anyway. So this is just a great amount of value. And, it costs 9 mana, so that's pretty goddamn good. And if you've noticed, a lot of the cards in this deck, they cost a boatload of mana, or a kraken worth of mana. Don't know what that means. But with all these cards costing so much, let's take advantage of that. And the fact that we're going to be putting cards on the top of our library with things like Twilight Prophet. 4 mana for a 2/4 vampire cleric with flying and ascend. So if you control 10 or more permanents, you gain the city's blessing for the rest of the game. That includes lands, so every land that you have goes towards that 10. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the city's blessing, reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. Each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is that card's converted mana cost. Now that is fantastic. You're going to have so much value. You're going to dome people for like 9, 10, because we're going to have so many big creatures in the deck. Yes, okay, occasionally you reveal a land, but it's still going to deal a ton of damage and pad our life total out as well. Then there's Keen Duelist, which when I first saw this card, I thought, oh, this is terrible. But in this deck, it is amazing. 2 mana 2/2. At the beginning of your upkeep, you and target opponent each reveal the top card of your library. So ours are all going to be these massive, ridiculous creatures. And then maybe our opponent reveals a 3-drop. Then you each lose life equal to the mana value of the card revealed by the other player. So our opponent is going to take the 9, we're going to take the 3 or 1 or whatever. and it just domes them for so much damage. And then we put each card in our hand. Excellent card that fits brilliantly in this deck. Then there's Quest for Ula's Temple, 1 blue for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you may reveal it and put a quest counter on it. At the beginning of each end step, if there are 3 or more quest counters on Quest of Ula's Temple, you may put a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent creature from your hand onto the battlefield. So we've got all these things that cost loads of mana, we've got them in our hand. This allows us to cheat them into play. We just put them in, and most of the time we are going to be revealing creatures because we've got a lot of ways to choose things to the top, which I'll show you in a second. But this just works so synergistically with this style of deck. Finally, the Omens are rather baneful, and it's a 7 mana enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you do, each opponent loses life equals that card's converted mana cost. So again, a just great way of absolutely doming your opponent, dealing tons of damage to them, and they're going to be crying, you know, tears are going to be flooding down, the mascara is going to be running. It's going to be a sorry sight, and this large vampire man is going to be going, ooh, and making it all much worse. But here are a couple of ways to put things on top of your library. Varagoth, I don't know, Blood Sky Sire, 3 mana 2/3 with Death Touch and Boast. So when you attack, you can activate this. Target player searches their library for a card, then shuffles their library and puts that card on top of it. So we're going to choose ourselves, and then we can reveal something massive to, dome people or whatever. Then there's Liliana Vess. Nice Planeswalker, 5 mana for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker, +1, target player discards a card. -2, search your library for a card, then shuffle your library, put that card on top of it. Put all creatures from all graveyards on the battlefield under your control. So the -2 is where we're really at, but that -8, if you get that off, absolutely game winning, putting everything into play under my control. Not yours, not yours. You're not having it, it's me. I want the things. Then we've got Conduit of Ruin, 6 loyalty, 6 mana. 5/5 Eldrazi. When you cast it, you may search your library for a close creature card with converted mana cost 7 or greater. Reel it, shuffle your library, and put that card on top. So I've talked a lot about, some of the Eldrazi's before. This can search for anything. If you just want to put big Eldrazi's in it, this is the card for you. Then the first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. So that allows us to essentially ramp by 2 mana every single turn. And all of these big creatures that we're talking about and we're deploying, we can finally cast them thanks to this card. Really, really nice. And because it's colorless, you can just slam it down with a couple of Sol Rings or something like that. And that brings me on to number 1. And at number 1, well, our commander, he likes to copy Krakens. And you know what? Our commander itself is a Kraken. So why don't we have 2 commanders? In Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. 4 mana 3/1 human rogue. You may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of another creature you control, except it has all the other abilities this card has. So the legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control, and that is what I am most excited about. So our commander, we have a Sakashima come in as a copy of our commander. They both attack. They can both then choose each other to make copies of each other. They're both Kraken, so each is going to make 2 more copies. So then we have 6 commanders. It's just going to spiral completely out of control. You're going to have so many flying Krakens. It's unbelievable. And these sort of effects are awesome in this deck. Then the Spark Double, another great way of copying a commander. 4 mana for a 0/0. Can have it enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature or planeswalker you control, except it gets an additional 1/1 counter on it. So our Kraken will be a 4-power Kraken. Wow. Then if it enters as a planeswalker, you get an extra loyalty. And it isn't legendary if the permanent is legendary. So our commander can copy the copy of our commander, making 3 copies of our commander that's now non-legendary. And then it just balloons out of control. If we could take some extra turns, we're going to get extra combats, extra swings, extra Krakens. They're just going to be flying everywhere. Then Sakashima, this is a way to get a 1 more commander because it is still legendary. You can't copy it and things like that. 4 mana for a 3/1 comes into play. Choose a creature in play. If you do, it comes in as a copy of that creature, except its name is still Sakashima the Imposter. And you can pay 4 to return it to its owner's hand at the end of turn. So this is just a good way of doubling our commander's effectiveness by having 2 of them. We can't copy our copies of the commanders copying the copy, but we can still have 2 Kraken making machines, I guess, or a fine woman making one. Then this Helm of the Host, 4 mana for an equipment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token as a copy of the equipped creature, except the token isn't legendary if the equipped creature is legendary. That token gains haste, equipped for 5. So again, we can just straight away make a copy of our commander. This is now non-legendary, this one over here. This is our original commander, represented by this fine sock here. And then this sock can make a copy of this commander that makes 3 of them, or however goddamn many it is. It's just fantastic and works excellently with this commander. And those are my top 5. Sorry for the technical issues there. I uploaded it without sound for the majority of it. I don't know what happened there. I just messed up. So sorry about that. So you can now hear my dulcet tones as I talk over the rest of the cards. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, comment, subscribe. This commander's pretty goddamn awesome. I, think I might build it, to be fair. I'll see you soon. Bye.